everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today's video, I am going to be going over all of my favorite media that came out in 2025. I will be covering my top 5 movies, shows, books, and albums. I'll also make sure to give a little explanation for each one. First up, we have my top 5 movies from 2025. At number 5, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I have been a huge fan of this franchise as a whole for several years now, and while the plotline of the movies might not necessarily follow the games to an exact T, I can appreciate the fact that they are trying to stay the course while making it its own thing. Like, they're taking things from the books as well and really spicing up the storyline, in my opinion. At number 4, we have Thunderbolts, or The New Avengers. I know that a lot of people feel that the Marvel movies that have been coming out in the past couple of years have been kind of lackluster and mediocre at best, but I am the kind of person that doesn't necessarily watch movies for the quality of the plot line and how it really holds up compared to the other movies in that same universe. If the characters are funny enough and they're a little quirky and maybe a little mentally ill, I'm probably having a good time. And that's exactly what this movie was. So I thought it was great. Also, I could never hate a movie that Florence Pugh is in because she is such an incredible actress and I adore her and everything she does. At number 3, we have Superman. Now, I have never been a huge DC universe person. I've never really been into those superheroes. I've always drifted more towards Marvel. However, this movie was such a phenomenon this past year that there's simply no denying its reach that it had. The fact that it impacted so many people and there was such a huge discussion around it. And I think that that is so impressive and important. At number 2, we have Sinners. Now, admittedly, going into this movie, I was really hoping that I would like it, but I was mainly scared because I knew that it was a bit of a horror situation, but it was so good. It was incredible. The score was amazing. The songs were incredible. The acting was S tier. I loved seeing Michael B. Jordan play 2 separate characters and the differences between those characters. It was just incredible. Absolutely amazing. The storyline was perfectly written and perfectly executed, and I wish I could watch that movie for the first time again. I really do. And my number 1 movie from this year was none other than K-pop Demon Hunters. This movie had so many people in a chokehold for so long, and quite frankly, kind of still does. There's just something so amazing about a show that is initially made for kids having such an impact on grown adults that is so important to me and really speaks to me personally, because I oftentimes feel that connection to animated media specifically, and like shows that are kind of more veered towards kids but have those underlying tones of like adult themes. The soundtrack for this movie was absolutely insane. I don't think there's a single skip on that album, and yes, that includes Soda Pop. We can deny it all we want. That is a very fun song. This is definitely another one of those movies that came out this year that I wish I could watch for the first time again. Next up, we have my top 5 shows of 2025. This category actually is going to get an honorable mention because there was a show that came out this year. Technically, only its pilot came out this year, and I watched it and was absolutely enamored by it. It is Knights of Guinevere. It is written and animated by the same person that did The Owl House, and that show was one of my favorite shows for a very long time. So when I heard that they were doing a different series and also that it was kind of taking a dig at Disney, I was like, oh, I have to be there. Oh, I will be there. So I watched it when it first came out, and it is so good and so genuinely intriguing. And the only reason that it's not like on the official list and only an honorable mention is because it only has a pilot right now. I'm really hoping that it does get picked up super soon though, because I would love to see it as a full-on series. Now to the actual list. At number 5, I have Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. I did kind of debate putting this on the list since the entire season isn't technically out right now. We have to wait a little while longer until we can watch Volume 2, and then a little while longer after that to watch the final episode. But this first volume of Stranger Things is so good. It was incredible, unmatched in its field, truthfully. It surprised me in so many ways, and I am just fully enamored with the storyline, and I also love the characters so deeply, so I have that emotional connection to it as well, that I am both very excited to see where the ending of this series takes us, but also like deeply afraid. At number 4, we have Has Been Hotel Season 2. Now, last year, this series was on my list as well, and it's because it's amazing. But I actually didn't get around to watching this season when it first came out, which granted, I don't think was really that long ago, but I just didn't really feel the urge to, I guess. But when I did finally sit down and watch it, I was like, ugh, I forgot how much I love these characters and how fun this plot is. And the fact that it's a musical, I literally forgot the fact that it's a musical. And I always love that. At number 3, we have The Last of Us Season 3. I am admittedly a newer fan to The Last of Us universe, but I was so there when the first season came out because I heard all the hype about it, and then I watched the full season, and then I did such an intense deep dive into like the playthroughs and people explaining the game and like the second game. So when part 2 came out, I was so excited, but so scared to start it for a while because I knew what happens in the beginning of this season, and I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want it to be real. So for a while I put it off, but then I came to terms with it and was like, I have to support this show. I have to watch it and see how they've changed things from the games, or if they do at all. And it was just so good, so impactful, such incredible performances by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. They are both genuinely such incredible actors. Like, it makes me sick to my stomach. They are so good. At number 2, we have Yellow Jackets Season 3. This is another show that I am kind of newer to. I actually started watching Season 1, I think, at the beginning of this year. But this season was genuinely just so crazy and such a roller coaster of emotions, and getting to see the characters' dynamics shift and their personalities change is genuinely so jarring, but like so beautiful and like so intense, and I can't stop watching it. It is such a good show. And at number 1, I literally never expected this. The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3. Now, the reason I say I never expected this is because when this show first came out, I was so appalled by the concept, or not necessarily by the concept, but by the fact that everyone was just really annoying. But I finally cracked down and watched it eventually, and still kind of had those same feelings where I was like, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe people like this. But this last season especially was really good, and I can't deny that. I'm also obsessed with them making a movie to really wrap up the whole story. I think that is going to be so great, and I am very excited to see it. The next category is my top 5 books that came out this year. At number 5, I have Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. I had forgotten until this year how much I really truly love Ali Hazelwood's writing. I think it is so good and so captivating, and this storyline specifically was so much fun to follow. I read this book pretty much directly after the first book in this series, which I am now forgetting the name of. I think it's Not in Love. And just to see the continuation back to back was so beautiful. And I love all the characters from this series, so I was obsessed. At number 4, I have The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. Now, if I remember correctly, this is actually this author's debut novel, and it is so good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of newer to the fantasy genre, but I think that this fantasy world was so well built and just incredible. The second book in the series is going to be coming out in 2026, and I cannot wait for it. It is going to be so good. I'm so excited. At number 3, we have If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia. I read this book at the end of this year, but I was so deeply obsessed with it because it is so well written, and I love when the female character is a little bit more broody and the male main character is a little more sunshine. I think that is so fun. I also love a single father storyline. I really do. So that got me hook, line, and sinker immediately. At number 2, I have Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Now, Holly Jackson is actually one of my favorite authors, and I absolutely adore her A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series and all of the other standalone books she's written. And this being her debut adult novel, it was absolutely incredible. I literally didn't call who the killer was at all, couldn't have called it if I tried. And it was just so intense, but not too intense where you're like, okay, this is unrealistic. Just the perfect. It's so good. I don't even have the words to describe it. I don't have the vocabulary. I just love it so deeply. And at number 1, as a shock to no one, we have Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Ever since I read it for the first time a couple of years ago, the Hunger Games series has had such a chokehold on me because it is so well written and so good, obviously, but also because Suzanne is just such an incredible writer. She is truly the arguably best author of our time. There, I said it. The Hunger Games as a concept is such a unique thing, and the fact that she is somehow able to make it different and make it still interesting in each one. I sound like a person that lives in the capital is what I'm realizing now. But it's just incredible. There's no denying that. And now for my last category from my top 5 of 2025, music. This category also has a couple of honorable mentions. Our first honorable mention is Short and Sweet Deluxe. It came out at the beginning of this year, and technically, since the album itself didn't come out this year, it didn't feel right putting it on this list, especially because it was on my list last year. But I still loved it so much. I love when artists release just a little bit more music for an album. It's my favorite thing. The next honorable mention is Kansas Anymore, The Longest Goodbye by Role Model. I didn't actually listen to the original album when it came out last year, but with all of the promotion for the deluxe with Sally When the Wine Runs Out, I was absolutely obsessed. And the fact that it came out on the same day as Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet Deluxe was just the icing on top. I'm honestly really hoping that Role Model releases some new music next year as well, because I am learning now that I am absolutely obsessed with him and I love his songs. And that last honorable mention is the So Close to What Deluxe by Tate McRae. I have admittedly not really been a huge Tate McRae fan in the past, not because I didn't like her, but just because I didn't really love the music for the most part. But with So Close to What, especially the deluxe songs, I finally realized her game. I did have a couple of songs from the original album, not deluxe, that I really liked, but as a full album, I didn't really love it. But with the help of those songs off the deluxe album, completely unmatched. Now to the actual list of my top 5 albums. At number 5, we have Fancy That by Pink Panthers. I am admittedly a newer fan of hers. I don't think I've actually ever listened to a full project of hers back to back before this year, but she has such an interesting voice and vibe, and just it's very unique. So I really loved this album. And my top 3 songs from this album were Tonight, Nice to Know, and Stateside. At number 4, we have Who's the Clown by Audrey Hobart, or Hobart. I'm honestly not entirely sure. Sorry. This album is Audrey's debut album after helping produce, I think, a couple of songs, or maybe the full album with Gracie Abrams. And I think it is so good. I really liked it. It really spoke to me as an awkward girl in her 20s who's just trying to figure stuff out sometimes. My top 3 songs from this album were Drive, Thirst Trap, and Silver Jubilee. At number 3, we have The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift. When this album initially was announced, I really expected this to kind of jump to the number 1 spot on my top 5 albums from this year, but there has just been so much good music that has come out this year that I kind of had to rank it a little bit lower, because admittedly this is not my favorite Taylor Swift project, and that's okay. I still think it was really good. I just definitely have other albums more highly ranked. That being said, my top 3 songs from this album were Ruin the Friendship, The Life of a Showgirl featuring Sabrina Carpenter, and Actually Romantic. Now, this might come as a shock to some people if you've been following me for a while, but at number 2, we have Man's Best Friend by Sabrina Carpenter. Now, the reason that this might be a shock to some people is because I am obsessed with Sabrina Carpenter. I absolutely adore her. I think she has such an incredible voice. She is an incredible writer. She is an amazing performer. And I've been a fan of hers since she was still acting on Disney Channel. And I just have such a deep appreciation for her. So the fact that this album is not number 1 for me is honestly kind of even a shock to me, but that doesn't negate the fact that this album was genuinely so incredible, and despite all the hate that it got leading up to its release, it held its own and really proved itself, in my opinion. My top 3 from this album are Sugar Talkin', Don't Worry, I'll Make You Worry, and House Tour. And my number 1 favorite album out of 2025 comes from an artist that I literally didn't even know of until this year. It is The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean. I, like many other people, heard the promotion for Man I Need, and with that, The Art of Loving as a whole album, and was absolutely obsessed. And for a while, even though I really wanted to listen to this album, I was kind of putting it off because every time I asked someone about it or talked about it, people would say, oh, it's so good, it's so amazing, it's like the best album of this year. But I didn't want to listen to it and then possibly not feel that way as well. But when I did finally sit down and listen to it, I realized that everyone was 100% right, and it was easily the best album of this year. That being said, my top 3 from this album change literally daily, but right now, my top 3 are So Easy to Fall in Love, Lady Lady, and something in between. And just like that, that is all of my favorites from 2025. If you're willing to share, I would love to hear some of your favorite media from 2025 as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next Vlogmas video. Bye!